Jake Ludington here at HP Discover, and I'm here with Rafal Los, who is a security expert at HP. And you said something a little bit controversial. You think that stability is bad for business. Why is that?
I do. So I had something imparted on me the other day. It had nothing to do with IT. In fact, it had something to do with monetary policy. And it had to do with the fact that the longer a system is stable, the less resilient it is. I love that word resilient. Meg said it today. I'm stoked about it. But the longer a system is completely stable and not moving and not responding, the less likely it is to be able to respond. And I have a nice illustration of that behind us here. As you can see, my chaos on the horizontal and time on the vertical axis. When most IT organizations were young and started, things were in high flux. Everything failed randomly, right? Sometimes we powered on our computers. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. That's why we all had like 12 T1 lines we overpaid for, because sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But over time we figured out how to get this squeeze going here, right? We got this decreasing delta of failure. And what ended up happening is, because of the fact that we figured out how to build systems not only that were more robust, right? So this is hardware robustness, software robustness, multiple layers of redundancy, stuff like that. We stopped learning how to respond. So less and less and less and less response. Now, along comes a catastrophic failure, right? Something bad happens. Middle of the day, a major system outage happens. And because of the fact that we haven't been learning how to respond properly, we just go, oh my God, what do we do? Bad things have happened. How do we respond? Because we've lost that sense. We've lost that constant state of panic. And I mean, I think that's actually an okay thing if we sort of live with this constant state of panic. It's kind of weird to say, but I think it's real, and that's why I think stability is bad for business.
So that kind of even goes back to sort of basic human instinct. We no longer have to fear that we're going to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, and so we become complacent about whether or not there might be real-world fears.
And then you meet up with a maybe not a saber-toothed tiger, but then, right, that fight or flight response is so strong when something bad happens and you get locked into fear. In places where we are always taught that, or we're always in a state of awareness, heightened awareness. We're always watching our backs. We're always having to do maneuvers that keep us out of harm's way, or we're always responding to harm in the physical realm, right? We're ready when somebody jumps out from behind this thing and says, ha-ha! We just go, yeah, great, whack, and move on, right? But if we're living in Candy Happy Land and we've never experienced something like that, somebody jumps out from behind a wall and says, ha-ha! And we freak out because we don't know what to do. Well, this is kind of like that in IT world, right? And now we're building clouds, we're building complex applications. This is potentially leading to this beautiful, epic red failure up there, because we've got these extremely large, extremely scaled systems that we're building. And I'm kind of afraid that we're expecting nothing to ever fail. Adrian Cockcroft from Netflix talks about this all the time, where they're always in a constant state where they are expecting failure. In fact, they've got the monkey, right? The simian army, where they're just waiting for failure to happen. They've got it built in, programmed in. They're like, oh yeah, that failed again. Oh well, something's going to take care of it. And if nothing happens that correct that failure, then they just program it in or fix it in or build a process for it. So next time it just happens and fixes itself. But if we don't, right, because nothing's ever failed that way, then what happens? The first time that something bad happens, epic failure, bad things.
Wasn't that, though, exactly what you're describing as the issue, where you're saying Netflix programs and all these things to prevent failure, or failure the next time? Isn't that exactly the description of complacency, where you've programmatically eliminated failures to the point where if something bad happens, you don't know how to be prepared for it?
No, that's absolutely the opposite. That's the heightened state of awareness. They're always aware. They're always learning from failures that have happened. They're always finding new creative ways that their systems can explode, implode, and vaporize in front of their eyes. And because of that, they're always expecting the unexpected, right? I probably, I've never actually sat and physically talked with the guy, but I'm fairly certain it's really hard to surprise these guys and come up with a completely new failure. They're going to go, holy cow, we've never seen that. I'm fairly certain that they always experience something new and go, yeah, we can probably solve that, or we've seen something similar to that. Let's solve it, right? But it's that heightened state of awareness, which I think is important. which I don't think a lot of IT teams are in right now, because we're getting to a state of stability.
So what you're talking about really is having a state of constant stress testing the environment, so you find out where things break in advance so that you can prepare for that impending chaos.
Yeah. So from my world, in the security world, this is like red teams, right? You hire a red team to come in, but what you don't tell anybody, including your security team in the organization, you hire them to come in and basically have at it. Give them the target. Say, hey, I want you to go transfer money out of the CEO's account. And you're the only one in the, maybe the chief legal counsel, because you don't want to get fired, right? Because bad things will happen. But you don't want to tell anybody about it, because you don't want to be prepared. It's the difference between a penetration test and a red team. Penetration test is you have a time box between 7 p.m. and 3 a.m. and on this one IP address. Okay, wait till we're ready, right? None of that. You just sort of go, okay, here's the target, go. And when they get in, when they're in the process of breaking in, whether it's through the roof or down your internet connection, or through an employee's home office connection, it doesn't matter, because your teams, your IT security teams, your managed service providers, your technology should be resilient and able to respond and let you know, so you can detect, deter, respond to bad things. But if you're not always in that state of awareness, you get to a point where you go, oh, yeah, those viruses out there, we've got an IPS that'll stop that, no problem. And but we've never really known, right? We've had a pen test done, which should be good. But have you ever had something without limits come at you? Well, no, but we know how we'll respond. No, you don't, right? You've never been chased by a bear. How do you know?
So if stability is bad for business in this sense, what do companies do so that they don't get to the point where they become too stable? Because most people would say that they want things to be stable so that they can take it easy and not be in this constant state of panic.
So one thing I want to make sure is we're not confusing stability with reliability of the IT systems, right? Stability means no flux, meaning everything's always available. What I don't want to say, that I'm definitely not against, is the availability of systems. You should be able to have systems fail and your user base not have email go down, not have critical systems go down. That's where this whole resiliency comes into effect, right? Yes, you'll have things fail the first couple times, but you got to learn to respond to it, and your critical systems stay up, right? Your responses. So I don't want to confuse those two, right? So that's important. I think that we need to be able to. I think we need to differentiate those appropriately. I think we need to be able to really have, an effective way to test that somehow. I don't know what that somehow is. Whether you unleash an army of simians in your data center, that sounds like a difficult task. I know it is, but it's necessary, and companies have been doing it. And I bet that first step in that direction is scary as heck, right? I wouldn't want to be the guy suggesting to my CIO that, well, you know what, tomorrow we're going to break something. I'm not going to tell anybody what it is. We're just going to unleash chaos on the organization. Ready? My resume is up to date.
That definitely keeps things exciting from the am I still employed perspective.
Absolutely, right? But I think because of that, to make it a little bit more realistic, because of that, we have systems like on the show floor back there. I got to sit through a really cool demo, watching from the back of the audience. People kind of got excited about to prevent the bad chaos from really becoming pervasive throughout the organization when something bad happens. Automation helps, and being able to rely on automation to save you in a bad situation. And the way you do that is you test it repeatedly in all kinds of scenarios. And you go, hey, automation's never seen that kind of failure. Let's see what it'll do, right? But you start with little environments, and you work your way up, and you work your way up and up and up, and eventually you can get to a state where you can pull any network cable out, or yank any config, or corrupt any config file on any random server, and the system goes, that's a failure. Down that VM, spool up a new one, transfer the workload over, we're good. Hey, by the way, somebody might want to take a look at that because something weird happened. I don't know how to fix it, but you guys go take a look at it. The environment is back, though. We're good.
All right. Well, that sounds like really that's disaster preparedness.
Absolutely. And you know what? Perfect. Disaster preparedness.